And so I invite you now to deliver your webinar entitled Medical Device Innovations, India Stories and Lessons. Professor Ravi.
Thank you, Dr. Vijay. And also, originally, the invitation came from, I think, your director, and thanks, Dr. Sareen also. All your colleagues, all the doctors, all the students who are in the room today, or maybe they will be watching later in case we are recording the whole thing. So first of all, a very happy new year to all of you. I also like to appreciate and congratulate and pay my respect to all of you who are directly or indirectly part of the whole last year's battle. And I think the battle is not yet over. We still have, I think, a bit of this year also. This COVID has, I think, changed our life in many ways. And I think among many things, health has now become, I think, being recognized now as a very important part of life. I think it has always there, but people did not recognize. Now I think health and health workers and all professionals linked to health, I think now are in the foreground. So in that respect, I pay my respect to you. And we are at Betic, which I'll talk about a little later, we are making our own little contribution to strengthening the innovation ecosystem in healthcare in the country. So I'll share those experiences. But this is being first year, and we just had maybe, I don't know how many of you had any break last year or even yesterday. So I'll just keep it light and interesting to all of you. And instead of giving a long lecture, I would rather break it up into small sessions. And at the end of every session, we will have a minor discussion. So whatever it is, we'll complete it within the stipulated time, well before 4 o'clock. It's now 3, right? I mean, yeah. So before 4 o'clock, we'll finish that. So let me share my screen and let me know if you're able to see. Dr. Vijay. Once you can see this, let me know.
We can see the slides, yes.
Excellent, excellent. Okay. So like Dr. Vijay said, I wear multiple hats in IIT Bombay. Please remember that I'm an engineer. I represent mechanical engineering. And we also have started this biomedical engineering and technology innovation center, which is my second hat. And the third hat is as the head of this center for School for Entrepreneurship at IIT Bombay. So these three give me different kinds of, you can say, experiences and contacts, meeting different kinds of people, different kinds of, you can say, organizations. And what I'm going to tell you is kind of a good mix, you can say, of all these three kind of experiences. And I'm hoping that at the end of this less than 1 hour now, you will have several interesting things and useful things also, perhaps to take it forward in your own life. So with these words, let me start. What I'm going to do is to divide my entire thing into 4 sections. Very small parts, each part about, let's say, can say 5 to 10 minutes. The first one will talk about how do you take ideas in medical devices, unmet clinical need is what is called, to, let us say, the impact, which is practical application of that. And there are what is called as valleys of death in between. We'll talk about what are these valleys of death and eventually how do you overcome these or bypass these things. The second section, we will narrate a story of a smart stethoscope, which actually became very useful in the COVID times for doing teleauscultation or telemedicine, you can say. Third part, we will go behind the scene of this success story and see what are the things that happened that made this team, this team has no experience in either medical devices or in business. Okay, so how did this happen and what led to this success story? The behind the scenes story we will talk about. And finally, I'll share a few practices, best practices, in case you want to implement that in your own organization or your own project. Maybe there are some good takeaways that you can share with this session. So this is how I'll do. And between each section, I will introduce a reflection point. So where you can maybe answer a question, and I would request and between each section, I would request you to put in a chat box what you think. And then why don't you try a chat box right now, and let me know whether this session transmission is loud and clear enough. Those who have access to the computers, you can just type in the chat box whether this session transmission is loud and clear. Okay, so at least I got a few, so I am now going ahead with this. So let me start with saying that healthcare is, of course, very important, and I don't have to tell you how important it is. As per World Health Organization, there are apparently 14,000 different healthcare problems, and these require a whole array of, devices to screen and monitor and diagnose, operations, surgery, treatment, rehabilitation, assistance, things like that. And these have to be affordable. Why affordable? Because if you see the statistics at the bottom of the screen here, India is right now at a manufacturer's end. We're talking about 50,000 crores of devices per year, but by the time they get sold in the market, it is closer to 80,000 crores per year. And 80% of this is right now being imported, usually from USA, Germany, and few other countries like that. But if you really look at the per capita expenditure on healthcare, if you compare it to USA, from where we import most of our devices, our per capita expenditure healthcare is about 1% of that, which means that even if you give 90% discount on an imported device, it is still 10 times as much expensive for an average Indian. For a bottom of the pyramid Indian, it is of course far more prohibitively expensive, which that's the reason why many people don't even go for diagnosis or treatment. And by the time they go, it is quite late. So what is happening in the country is, if you look at Indian industry, there are hardly 10 companies which you can call them as large medical device companies. And they are nowhere close to anywhere in size to the large MNC companies which operate in the world. And even these companies they struggle to meet the quality of the Western companies or the cost of the Eastern companies. You're increasingly seeing imports coming from China, Vietnam, and countries like Malaysia and countries like that. So we are not able to meet these two. And of course, the regulations have kicked in from medical device rules 2017, 18, and so on. So now the entire regulatory process of medical devices, the risk class, the clinical trials of that, certification of that, marketing of that, they are all highly controlled now by our FDA equivalent, which is CDSCO of the country. So it is easy to give up hope at this point of time for both industry and engineers like us. But then when you go and talk to the clinicians and also the public or patients or distributors, they all say, no, we are always waiting for devices which have new features or better features. They're more suitable for Indian anatomy or our functionality, our requirements. Can we have better quality than what we see at this point, more reliable in our Indian conditions, and of course, affordable and available and adaptable for Indian conditions. So it's not that the imported devices are meeting all these requirements. So actually there is a scope for what's called as market pull is coming from those, market demand is coming from those. And on the other hand, if you see all these nice new technologies from 3D printing and computer design, artificial intelligence, machine learning, you must have heard all these things, augmented reality, virtual reality, Internet of Things, IoT, and so on. These were not there even 10 years back, or they were there, were very complex, very bulky, very expensive. They are not mainstream. But now you can just go to Amazon or other similar websites and you can order a temperature sensor, a pressure sensor, or an IoT kit and things like that. And these are they're now in hundreds of rupees and thousands, not millions of rupees anymore. So this gives a chance for us to rethink and reinvent medical devices from scratch for our requirements or to meet those requirements which I mentioned to you. But it is easier said than done, because medical device innovation is not just one kind of engineer. You need mechanical guys, material guys, electrical, software, management, social science people, and of course the medical fraternity, the clinicians have to be there in the middle of the thing. I would say from beginning to end of this entire process, because problem definition starts from there, feedback, and then finally the implementation of that, clinicians have to be involved. So unless doctors and engineers and entrepreneurs work together, this is not feasible to put it together. So what is stopping us from doing that? And this is where I come to the valleys of death. So there are enough people who have this fantastic idea saying, hey, I want to create a new product like this. So those needs or concepts or ideas are all there, okay? But that is the first step. You need to build what is called as a proof of concept, which is you create a kit to prove that the science part of it works, or you want to demonstrate your thought in a physical, tangible format. That is your proof of concept, or POC. That's the ideation stage. The second valley of death is that from POC, you want to create a working prototype where you can actually show how the thing can be used in practice. So prototype is very close to how the product looks like eventually, but just one piece. And it's just not fully done. It's wires hanging. If you drop it, it will break. It will not work again. You need someone to explain how it works. So prototype is just a demonstration piece kind of a thing. But that is where invention lies. The third value of that is innovation, which is your commercialization of invention or converting the prototype into a commercially viable product. In fact, ideally making not one, but maybe 5 or 10 pieces of that, showing it to 10 different clinicians and telling them, hey, try it out and let us know if it works well. And that is what happens in all these prototyping centers and these incubation centers or incubators. These things happen. Once you cross these 3 valleys of death, the next one is actually very well-known game, which is what is business all about, where you get a license for manufacturing, do mass production, and then marketing and distribution and so on. That is where the impaction comes of your original idea. If you're thinking about all these 4, of course, I hope you're seeing those numbers at the bottom. The amount of funding that you need to cross these valleys of death almost increases 5 to 10 times as you go from the first stage to the last stage. But if you're thinking what is the most killer value of death, and if you think the third one is a killer one, you are absolutely right. And in fact, that is the transition between research to reality. Converting research prototypes into commercially viable or marketable products is actually the most difficult thing to do, because neither academia is geared to do that, nor industry wants to do that. And that is where most of the ideas actually fall into the valleys of death. So how do you overcome that? And what is the fundamental reason why India is not able to, in spite of having a lot of brilliant people in all kinds of spheres, government, academia, industry, financing, everything is there, but why are we not getting it right? So the reason is, if you just put these 4 axes, I say y-axis you put creation and transfer, and on x-axis you put knowledge and products, you get 4 quadrants, right? So knowledge creation quadrant, you can call it as research. Knowledge transfer quadrant is education. Product creation quadrant is what is called as development, product development, and product transfer quadrant is business, right? The problem is that in India, we think that these 4 are done by 4 different kinds of people, and these people don't usually talk to each other. They think that is, a scientist will think that is my job. My job is to write a paper and end there. It is not my job to take the product into or idea into practice. That is a businessman's work. But businessman and the scientists hardly meet each other. So there's no scope for collaboration between the 2 people. But even a bigger problem in countries like us, Oriental countries, at least India, is that we feel that the goddess of knowledge represented by Saraswati and goddess of wealth represented by Lakshmi, it's like mindset saying that no, where Lakshmi is, Saraswati cannot be, and vice versa. That's not going to happen. You have to be able to convert knowledge into wealth. And that is so difficult. Someone told me, yeah, you have to bring the third Devi in the middle, because unless you put a lot of effort and energy and Shakti, this is not going to happen. So we have to get our ecosystem in right. And when we say ecosystem, we're talking about the 4 players. They typically talk about 3, what's called as the 3 spirals or triple helix. But I think it is a 4 helix, and society also has a role to play. What kind of a role to play? Government essentially job is to do funding and regulation. Academia essentially to research and to develop the products. Industry to manufacture products and of course to market them. And society, and by society I mean even clinicians here or whoever it is, where you can actually discover what problems are worth solving, and you go back to society or market and say, let us validate the solutions also. But again, when I made this slide a few months back, I realized this is not enough again. You need 4 more players. You need incubators where academia and government can kind of work together. You need investors, because without investors, you cannot go ahead completely. You need industrial parks, because these are protected areas where medtech is not like a commercial business. So you need some kind of a government backed, medtech parks, which are coming up in different parts of the country. And I thought even media has a very important role to play in highlighting the success stories and also, inspiring the general public and many people to get into this whole thing. So this is the ecosystem I'm talking about. Unless we build that, we see glimpses of these happening in different places, and I'll give a glimpse today also before I finish this. But this is a bigger picture that we have to put into place. So with this, I have come to the end of my first part, which I mentioned that there's a need to take these ideas to impact through invention and innovation. But there are these valleys of death which can be overcome only when you get all these stakeholders, 4+4 stakeholders, and they together collectively build the innovation ecosystem in the country. Then it's feasible. But at this point, I want to ask a question to you, and please go back to your chat boxes. I wanted to say that I mentioned in the beginning that the healthcare sector is important because now, because of pandemic, people are realizing the importance of that. Do you think there are any other reasons why healthcare sector is now perceived as being important? I must tell you something, statistics, as you're writing down in your chat box. I looked at the number of patents filed in Europe last year, 2019, 1920. About 11 or 14,000 patents were filed in medtech in Europe in the previous year, compared to about, I think, 8,000 in automotive sector and a similar number in e-commerce sector. I mean, medtech is now seeing the largest number of patents and by a big margin compared to other sectors, which means a lot of innovation is happening even now, which means these innovations will come into the market maybe 3 to 5 years from now, right? So lack of clinicians to pose problems to scientists. And I'll tell you a little later, it is not a lack of clinicians or lack of will. It is just lack of platforms for clinicians to meet engineers. And I'll show you how we are solving that problem in a short thing. And funding part of it, I agree. But funding part in the beginning of the whole pathway, especially POC and prototype, and even for initial batch production, now DBT, DST, BIRAC, they're funding nicely. The problem comes when you want to scale up from making a few hundreds to few, let's say, thousands and millions of devices. There you need investments of the order of several tens of crores, and that money is not there at this point of time. Dr. Gayatri, creating new jobs, creating new skill is actually a driver for this. Thank you for saying that. In fact, in USA now, healthcare is now the single largest employer. 1 in 6 people in USA, this was pre-pandemic, I'm sure it is now even more. Maybe it is now in 1 in 5 people in USA are now employed in healthcare, okay? Which is a huge, huge thing. In Europe also now, medtech industry and healthcare industry in general are, I think, already become or on the verge of becoming the largest employer. So in India also, if you can see, a large number of employment happening, a large number of startups, many incubators that I visited in the pre-pandemic in the last 2-3 years, 30 to 40%, in some incubators, even 50%. IIT Bombay's business incubator, 50% startups are in healthcare. So you can see that healthcare has become actually very, very popular in terms of young people to start new initiatives. Okay, so with this, let us go to the next part. And this is about a story. I want to share a story about 3 innovators here. The first person is called as Tapas Pandey. He's an electronics engineer from Dehradun, Uttarakhand, not too far from you. And the second person is Dr. Nambiraj, who at that point of the story was a anesthetist in a rural hospital in Derwan, which is almost the midpoint of Bombay and Goa. And the third character in this story is Adarsha, who is a software engineer. At that point of the story, he was working in L&T, Bombay. And at that point, Tapas, the first character, was working in a semiconductor company in Hyderabad. So these people had never met each other, by the way. Okay. So what happened is in 2015, we organized a workshop called as MEDIC, which you see. And MEDIC stands for Medical Device Innovation Camp. That's where we bring doctors and engineers together. Okay. So Dr. Nambiraj, who is holding the mic in the picture, left picture, he's actually explaining a problem to the people in the room. And every team has doctors and engineers, by the way. So he's saying that in a rural hospital, when a patient comes to him and then he puts a stethoscope and he hears a sound, and that sound he has never heard before, then he has to take a call, take a decision saying that, should I send this patient to a tertiary hospital or not? If it's critical and if it doesn't send, it's a risk to life. If it's non-critical and if he sends the patient to the city, then he has wasted the patient's time and money. And rural patients don't necessarily want to go to city hospitals. So he said, instead of sending the patient to the city, can I send the sound of his auscultated sound to the city doctor? That was the problem defined. And then you see the other 3 people, the t-shirt, the striped t-shirt is Adarsha. And next to Adarsha is Tapas in middle. And the blue shirt, what you see is Dr. Rupesh. Right? He's a mechanical engineer. So in the room, you have 1 mechanical guy, 1 clinician, 1 electronics person, and 1 software person. So 4 people got together. And within the next 4 days of this camp, it's a 1-week camp, within the next 4 days, they built this proof of concept where Tapas could put a stethoscope to his chest, as you can see on the right bottom picture. And from that, he takes it to what is called as an analog to digital converter, convert a analog sound to a digital sound. And from there, it takes it to a laptop, from laptop to a Wi-Fi to the loudspeaker in the room. And then he could beam his heartbeat onto the loudspeaker in the room wirelessly. And everyone clapped it, and they won a prize. Then they go back to their jobs, usual life as it happens. But what happens is that life is not the same. So they go back to their respective jobs, but then they're missing something in their life now. And 6 months later, they gave me a call and said that, can we leave our jobs and can we come to IIT and can we work on this device further? And trust me, I'm just waiting for the phone call. So they came to IIT in early 2016 after resigning from their jobs, by the way. And they took huge huge salary cuts in their jobs. I put them in touch with several clinicians in Bombay and Pune. You can see Hinduja Hospital meeting. They also went to other hospitals in Pune and Bombay. And I told them, you just watch how doctors use stethoscopes. Don't start inventing right now. Go back to basics. Just be in the hospital, looking at the doctors, asking them a lot of questions, asking them their wish list, what you want to do and so on. So they did that. And within about a few more months, within about 1 more year from then, they actually created this, what's called as a smart stethoscope module. What you see in the middle of the screen is just the module, which you can just plug, which you can just put it in the put it between your chest piece and your earpiece. Okay, and suddenly your traditional conventional stethoscope becomes now a digital stethoscope. Okay. And now we can do, you can with this, we can now, in the latest version also has a Bluetooth connectivity. You are able to record the sound, you can share the sound, you can of course even do noise cancellation, amplification, okay? And of course you can share the sound through either real time through Bluetooth or offline through by WhatsApp sharing or things like that. So this suddenly empowered the doctors or clinicians to do far more with the same humble stethoscope than what they can do. But most important thing, what I remember is that most doctors said, thank God you did not put a headphones to the whole thing. Because they said that, and this was one of the wish lists, they said, do not make it look like something different from a stethoscope. Because stethoscope is our identity. And I have, so this, in case you are able to see, this is how it looks like. And you just switch on this button, and now if you and that's just this simple module, and with this now it becomes a digital stethoscope. What I said is, do not remove do not change the look and feel of this whole thing, because especially rural hospital doctors, this is identity. I mean, patient literally say you're a doctor if you're wearing a stethoscope like that, because now it's that white coat is now gone because of the infection business, so you have to only wear a half shirt, right? Doctor said, you're already taking away all our identities. At least this is the last identity. Don't give it away. So this was one of those things which happened only because they went and talked to a lot of doctors. So after that, they went to this government, BIRAC. You must be aware of BIRAC, a unit of DBT, Ministry of Science and Technology. And BIRAC has this nice competition called as Biotechnology Ignition Grant, or BIG. And with this grant, they were able to secure a grant of 50 lakh rupees. Of course, they filed a patent before that. And with this grant, they could start a company called IU Devices. And you can see the team about a couple of years back. Now they have a little bigger team than that, doing sales and marketing and things like that. But they also, business also needs a lot of money initially to manufacture, marketing, distribution, sales. So they also applied to multiple other competitions. You can see IIGP, 25 lakh rupees from DST, India Swiss next competition, 10 lakh rupees. They also had this startup, Gujarat and startup Maharashtra, where the award itself was an order of 100 stethoscopes or something like that. So this was very good for them to get the initial awards. And when this pandemic happened last year, they could reposition this stethoscope as something for doing safe auscultation from a distance. So you can have a clinician with the patient in the ward, or even in the screening camps, and the doctor could be even in a hospital or different room, or even at home, And many senior doctors said, we don't want to be exposed. Hospital said, you don't want to expose you, so you stay at home only. And they said, we want to be useful still. So Chest auscultation, of course, was a very big thing in COVID, and they could help out even being at home. So today, if you see, IU Devices has now sold, I think, close to 2,000 units in the last 2 years. Many of these are sold to telemedicine companies, and these companies are and they are operating across the country in multiple states today. So this is a story of IU Devices, and what I shared with you was how these 3 or 4 people, both clinicians and engineers, identify an unmet need, created a proof of concept, and took it all the way from prototype to product to market, crossed all the valleys of death, which I mentioned earlier. And not only that, it is now a success story because they have 5 patents in, I think, 7 territories across the world: Europe and Australia and Singapore and USA, Africa also, I think. And they are now getting orders from across the world now. So here is and these are first generation entrepreneurs. They never knew business, and definitely the engineers did not know medicine. So first time medicine, first generation entrepreneurs. But within 2 years, they are now success story. And this man is now the company is now a poster child for many institutions, including Government of India, to inspire a new generation of entrepreneurs like that. So with this, I want to now come up to another reflection point. And I want to ask you this question: what do you think is a key factor for the success of this IU Devices team? And I must tell you that none of the team members are IT students, okay? It's not that only rocket scientists and IT students or scientists can do innovations. I think I've seen people from very small towns, very simple engineering colleges or science colleges, full of ideas, full of energy, full of commitment for solving the problems. And I can tell you stories like that. If I had 2 more hours, I would tell you 2 more stories or like that, where, and there was one more person who was physically handicapped, economically handicapped, socially handicapped, academically handicapped. That person also has become a poster, innovator for us, inspiring person for us. So innovation and entrepreneurship is not limited to only IITs and IIMs kind of a thing. Anyone is pretty much level playing field right now. If you have a good idea, you can be successful. Yes, I agree with you that communication between different kinds of stakeholders was critical. Getting the problem definition right and getting all the stakeholders together on the same platform, working together night and day. Yes, these are some of the reasons for success. But I want to go beyond that, and I want to tell you now, going behind the scenes. And this is our lab, which is called BETIC. I deliberately brought it now here because I thought, let me tell you a story first and then can tell you what is behind the story and where it was done, right? Among other things, by the way, this lab also, before we built the lab about 5 years back, this was a costume room for the Three Idiots movie when it was shot in IIT Bombay. It was really like a shed. Even now we preserve the look and feel of a shed, but it is quite beautiful from inside, and I'll show you pictures of inside also in a minute. But what we have done is, from the beginning we said the lab is going to act like a running partner for medtech innovators. What is running partner? If someone is running a marathon, there's someone running next to this runner on a maybe motorbike or a car, supplying water and glucose and oxygen if you want, and of course cheering them on the way. So we want to act like that for the medtech innovators so they can run their marathon faster, more efficiently, and reach the finish line earlier. So this is the goal of this thing. There's one more thing which is very special about BETIC is that it is perhaps India's first lab to have ISO 13485 accreditation, which is equivalent to ISO 9000 for medical devices. No other academic lab is like this. So we have processes and procedures and records which are maintained in a very meticulous manner. And we found later on that has really helped us to get through, whether it is a ethical committee permission, or it is a CEDESCO certification or NOC. We just get it through very easily because we have done everything in a systematic way and records are maintained. So people know that we have, whatever we are saying, there's a backup in terms of information and data. And it's authenticated data. And then we also have process of innovation, which we have now refined over the last 5 years. This is the most important thing in the entire 1 hour, if you want to remember. We call it as a define, develop, deliver, deploy process. Literally, it is crossing those 4 valleys of depth, if you remember from earlier slide. But we also say that each stage, there is a different person who takes the lead. In the define stage, the lead is completely for the doctor or clinician. The clinician says, this is a biting problem for me and I want you to solve that. And of course, gives us access to his data, observations. We go and spend time in hospitals. So it's broken down into 4 steps. So you build a team, we tell them to go spend enough time in hospitals, sometimes days and weeks, and then tell them, just define the problem properly. What exactly is the problem you want to solve? And then evolve concepts and look at feasibility. Is it worth solving the problem? Are there enough patients, enough business, enough buyers, enough novelty? Otherwise, there is no point doing that. And then you have the development stage where researchers play a role. So that is when you're creating a new solution, you're designing, prototyping, and then your functional prototype is actually working prototype, the different kinds of prototypes here. We do that. And then we have the deliver stage where the entrepreneur comes into picture. Someone has to actually go out and build the first few batches of the products, get it tested in accredited labs, then human clinical trials, which requires its own game of clearances and things like that, and finally go back to status quo and certification. And certification must be from the manufacturer. That is why entrepreneur has to be there in this picture. The startup should have happened already by this time, or industry partner is already in the picture. And then finally, you have the deployment stage where you secure your intellectual property rights, both in the country and perhaps in the world. You have refined the business model. How are you exactly going to sell it? Is it a product? Is it a service? Is it a hybrid? What kind of distribution model? All those things have to be figured out. And then you actually going to get into mass production. And then finally distribution, marketing, sales, and things like that. The whole 16 steps, 4 into 4, 16 steps, constitutes the entire pathway from defining an unmet need to delivering that into practice. And of course, there are failures on the way. You start with, we in fact have 400 unmet clinical needs at this point of time, collected from more than 150 clinicians who we met in either hospitals or conferences, or they came down to our labs, or we went to hospitals. There's a constant, you can say, back and forth between various hospitals, most of them in Bombay because we are in Bombay, but we are now increasingly connecting with the hospitals in Bangalore, Hyderabad, Ahmedabad, Delhi, and so on and so forth. But then out of that, we picked a few problems, and those 200 problems were given in the hackathons, which I mentioned earlier, Medical Device Innovation Camp. We also do hackathons. So they were given in those places, and we have 200 different problems solved in different ways. And then from those, we took about 60 forward and filed the patents, which means products are done, batch production is done, and 20 products have already been licensed to either startups or industry partners. So I'm just going to show you 4 slides of the 4 stages, just one critical things, each one of them. So for example, when you say define a problem, we make sure that what we select has a significant local need. We don't want to solve problems for Japanese and Germans. We want to solve India's problems, and it has to be verified by market research. A single clinician saying this is a very important problem, I know I'm an expert, I'm telling you to solve it. We don't take it up. We talk to 10 more, actually 50 to 100 more clinicians or distributors or competitor or whatever. We do homework, and then only we go and start the project. This can take 3 to 6 months, but we are okay doing that. Then we also make sure that there's a value proposition. There's no point doing a cheaper device, which is cheaper by 10 or 20%. There's no scope. You cannot compete in the market. It has to be 5 to 10 times better, faster, easier, more effective, or things like that, and also affordable. And not only more affordable. Then there's some hope of doing that well. It has to be feasible in the sense that we don't want to do problems which will take 10 years to solve. We would like to take up a problem and bring it to market within 2 to 3 years maximum. It has to be doable, manufacturable with the current facilities and conditions and so on. And finally, a team has to be there. There are many clinicians who say that do this problem, it will be great, I guarantee you. But we say that, can you give us that sometime every week, 1 hour every week? Because we want you to be part of the project. And these clinicians are become such an important part of the project that even the patents are actually are filed into the whole thing. I'm just seeing this comment from SMG. I agree with you, all those things. Yeah, I agree with your point. So yeah, I hope you can see me and then hear me and then slides. Correct?
Just please proceed.
Okay, so I just mentioned that we need these 4 things, and just a quick thing about the developed stage. So here is an example of a mega processes which is used for children who have osteosarcoma or bone cancer. From a CAD model to simulation to the 3D printed part to the final processes, that is the development stage. And then I mentioned also that deliver, which includes the lab testing as well as clinical trials. We actually built a machine to test this joint over millions of cycles. And then of course went to clinical trials, which is you can see the actual surgery happened last year in Hinduja Hospital. And the X-ray at the bottom shows you the entire, you can see it's not just an arthritic knee joint, but it's the entire mega processes. Not only the knee joint, but also part of the tibia and part of the femur are replaced. And finally, commercialization. I mentioned to you earlier that we maintain these records very well. And also when the IPR is filed, you can see that the researchers who contribute to the invention, including clinicians, they are made part of the invention. And when we commercialize that, either it is startups or it could be industry partners, or it could be even not-for-profit or NGO organization, which we don't mind giving to. So now here is a other story. So I talked about the smart stethoscope story to you. But if you look at this entire slide, literally head to toe, we have screening devices, monitoring devices, diagnosis devices, some patient assistive devices, surgical instruments. You have the whole works here. The red text tells you the name of the company, which has a startup company actually. All of them are startups. So we have 16 startups here who have commercialized these technologies. And what I'm very happy to say that every one of them has won the BIRAC BIG award of 50 lakh rupees. These are the startup projects. We also have industry projects, which you see, and these are all companies which are existing in the country. Small, medium companies who have given us different projects. You can see things like biopsy gun, you can see a laparoscopy instrument, and we recently also built a full-fledged IC ventilator in the pandemic. Although now the demand of ventilators in the country is not so high, but in the beginning it was very high, and then we took this project on an emergency basis. So that is the third part where I talked about behind the scenes, how BETIC as a running partner is helping these innovators cross all these valleys of death through various facilities and mentoring and connections to different you can say industry vendors, consultants, patent attorneys, people like that. So all this is helping these startups to move forward faster. And if you want, you can think about one point, and we can discuss this at the very end also. If you want to be a running partner, like ILBS as an institution wants to help innovators in and around ILBS to create innovations, what kind of things that you need to do? And what is the major challenge for institutions who want to be running partners for innovators? That's a point worth thinking about. I wanted to mull over as we go ahead to the last part, which is the best practices. What we have done at BETIC is that we have created now a pipeline. And pipeline means that we actually start with what is called as a MEDHA, which is Medical Device Hackathon. It's a weekend event. We usually do it in April, May, June, July, summer months. And we do it in different places, usually in Maharashtra, different institutions. So the local clinicians either participate as participants, or they come in as jury members if they're senior, or mid-level clinicians also give problems worth solving in those hackathons. So this is a good way to tune or expose engineers to the medtech arena. But there's a more serious event called MEDIC, which I showed you earlier in the IU devices story. The MEDIC is a Medical Device Innovation Camp, which we usually do it in September, which is a 5-day, 4-night, very intensive camp where professionals, working professionals, both doctors and engineers, they team up to actually create a proof of concept and a business plan in those 5 days. It's a very intensive 5-day camp. It works, and it really changes the DNA of people like the ones we saw in the story there. And then we have, out of those who want to take it further and maybe resign from their jobs and take it up full time, we give them fellowships for 1 year, which can be extended to 1.5 to 2 years also. But in the 1 to 2 years, they have to fully develop a medical device and exhibit that in MEDEX. We do 2 MEDEX every year. Last year, we did not do any one of these things, but this year we're thinking of having e-Medha and e-Medic, depending on how the pandemic is going forward. So we do that, and the dotted line is the edge of commercialization or the difference between academic to industry. That's the point where the researcher is starting a company, and Sign is our business incubator. You can incubate a company in that, and then from there you can go to either a medtech park or industry park. That is the life. The whole idea is that a problem discovered at bedside, to engineering bench, to business, to back to bedside, we should be able to do it under 3 years for most of the low risk devices like diagnostic and screening and so on. And that's actually happened. Our shortest project was under 1 year, and the longest project was about 3 years or so. So we can do most of the things in under 2 years now. So just some pictures now. So these are pictures of our medical device hackathon, which we did in 2017, 18, 19 mostly. As you can see in Mumbai, Pune, Nagpur, Wardha, Kolhapur, and there are different engineering colleges that we go, and it kind of lights a fire, and then it energizes the local ecosystem, and they start getting onto this whole, getting doctors, engineers together and doing more than that. And Medic is a 5-day event I mentioned to you, where day one, we show them videos of unmet medical needs or problems. And from day 2 onward, they start evolving solutions, learn how to test it. Day 4, they learn how to file a patent and make a business plan. And the 5th day, they actually present that to a jury of about 100, 200 top clinicians and business thought leaders and innovators and so on. And in the last 5 years, we have done this event most of the times in IIT Bombay. We did once in Pune, once in Nagpur also. So now I'm going to show you also the pictures of our facilities. I'm going by the pipeline. So Medha and then Medic, and then you have Betic Fellowship. So during the 1-year fellowship, these people actually learn how to do generate ideas, create prototypes in plastics, metal, electronics, and so on. And then they exhibit that in different platforms. We organize a few events. We also participate in other events of the government. We can see here at Harshvardhan here in 3 different India Innovation Science Fairs. Every year we have been there. And then of course, deployment where in partnership with these clinicians who are actually part of the project right from beginning. So many of these pictures, you see the doctor and the engineer who worked on that. And sometimes you see a patient also. We call them as our happy pictures, because this is exactly what gives us motivation to get up the next day and go back to lab and do something more. We really push very hard. In fact, even yesterday night we had meetings. There was no New Year's Eve or party or anything like that. We work night and day, weekends. There are no holidays, no weekends, nothing. But it's a joy for us. Our party is one more device getting into the market is a party for us. So we are very happy doing that. Now I'll just wind up now by saying that the ecosystem which I mentioned in the beginning, I want to say that if I look back and say how the whole thing happened, and it's a very unique model. I've not seen this kind of a thing, at least in India, even overseas, and I have been to a few places. We've boiled it down to saying that our reInvent stands for research, innovation, and entrepreneurship ecosystem. It boils down to 4 pillars. The first pillar is the kind of people that we have in this ecosystem. The researchers represent medicine, engineering, mechanical, electronics, software, materials, management, quality, vendor management. We have all kinds of people in our team. We have about 30 people in our team, and they represent all these different kind of things. And you have mentors, senior people who have walked the path. We have people who manage the facilities in a professional way in an academic institute. And we have visitors almost daily basis, not in the pandemic, but we would have people like from ambassadors to vice chancellors to directors to, of course, top clinicians to business people and all that. So this kind of gives us, when you talk to different kinds of people, they bring in different, very rich nuances of experiences, and we are weaving that into our work culture on a daily basis. The second pillar is a culture of innovation. So Betic is not just one institution, but several institutions. I'll show the next slide. And overcoming personal comfort zones, going and talking to a clinician about a subject that you don't know about, or you're reading about, let's say, liver or biliary system in, let's say, on just two nights. I mean, what clinicians would take, weeks and months. You have to be able to read up and absorb and then go and talk to a top clinician, with a reasonable amount of confidence. It's not easy for engineers to do. Please, the same as vice versa, right? And obviously, innovation means taking risks, and risks means failures. And failures have to be celebrated, learned from, embraced. So it is part of life for us. The third is infrastructure for design and prototyping and manufacturing and testing and all that. We are not, it's not exactly perfect for us. We are fighting all the time with government saying we need more funds, but we somehow manage with partnerships and so on, which delaying the projects. But we wish that we had everything under one roof. Then we can go much faster and help many more institutions to do this translation of research into products. And finally, the procedures. So we have our own quality vision, our own best practices, our own standard operating procedures, forms and records and certification, which is what gives us the credibility when we go to these certification agencies or even hospitals for human clinical trials. I think we have more than a dozen products in now clinical trials, and every one of the clinical trials was approved without any issues at all, because the kind of documentation that we produced was very good. Now, you may think the whole thing is sounding like a very difficult thing for an academic institution. Remember, my primary job, my salary comes for teaching my courses and classes, not for doing all these things. So how are we doing all these things? You can see incredible amount of effort and midnight oil being burnt here. But I think the energy that we get is because that we keep the end user, in this case, let's say a bottom pyramid patient in a rural area suffering from certain thing, that is our focus of attention. And when we keep remembering that, I think that somehow both gets us a lot of goodwill and you can say stakeholders connecting with us, helping us in different ways, and energy for ourselves to work, as I said, from morning to night and on weekends also. So that is it. And this is the network I was talking about. So IIT Bombay is the first BETIC center, but now we have BETIC centers in 7 different engineering colleges across Maharashtra and 7 medical institutes. These are formal institutions where MOUs have been signed, and there's a BETIC center there where we train the clinicians, if it's a medical institute, in the procedures of how to do innovation, how do you maintain records, that the training gets done, even engineering colleges. And we also have agreements with incubators, with the governments of Maharashtra, Gujarat, Andhra Pradesh, now Rajasthan and Karnataka also coming up, where we advise the government itself, how do you set up the innovation ecosystem, how do you train, how do you, the policies of those things. We are advising governments of the state governments also in many ways. Of course, I'm linked with DBT, ICMR, DST, BIRAC, virtually every government agency where there is a medical devices or innovation, more or less we are connected to those groups in different ways. So that is it. And this is just to wind up by saying, these are some of the places where you can get more information. There's a book called Essence of Medical Device Innovation, where the 16 steps are explained in detail with 16 stories from BETIC family, which you now know. You can also go to YouTube and look up for this Open Design School, Biomed Innovations, or Living Science channel, a talk called as Golden Spiral, where I explain in great detail how to do this 16 steps innovation process. Or otherwise, beticlab.org website. My LinkedIn profile is there. You can just point your mobile at that and you can get connected with that. So that's where we have completed these 4 sections. And I also gave you an inkling of the best practices about what to do to create an innovation ecosystem, which leads to hopefully many more success stories. Okay, so I end here, and I just want to leave with the last reflection point and any question that you may want to ask. But I want to ask you saying that what was the single most important, interesting or important insight or learning from this session? But now I end here, and then let me thank you right here itself.